I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5?
With a career spanning over 6 decades, from television to blockbuster movies, Clint Eastwood has established himself as one of the greatest actor-directors the world has ever seen. His huge body of work has won him the respect of his peers.
A leader of men, infectiously calm.
He's just like a mountain, isn't he?
Clint Eastwood was a great filmmaker.
In 1996, the American film industry honored him with a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Clint Eastwood.
Quite overwhelming to watch your career flash before your eyes.
If you look at his career, he has really augmented. I mean, he's gone from spaghetti westerns, which is where he started, and he has suddenly, become a better actor, and then he became a director and a writer, and he just keeps climbing. And he refuses to acknowledge what we call biological time.
This legend of the motion picture industry doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon.
I mean, I feel good about it. I don't want to sound like James Brown, but I feel good.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Few can rival Clint Eastwood's career in front and behind the camera. He has given the world some of the most iconic lines in motion picture history.
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
The steel gaze of Clint Eastwood first came to prominence in 1959 when he landed the role of Rowdy Yates in the CBS TV series Rawhide. The series ran for 8 seasons.
Oh, I mean, I saw him in Rawhide. That's the first time I saw him is on television, and he's a cool guy then, and he's a cool guy now.
Clint Eastwood, hero for hire.
In 1964, he went to Italy to star in a trilogy of revisionist westerns for Sergio Leone. He played the role of the man with no name in A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I'll blow it to hell and gone with the train on it.
These films became known as spaghetti westerns due to being Italian productions.
You better go. Man, time for a war.
The success of these movies won him numerous leading roles back in the United States, including 2 Mules for Sister Sarah, where he shared the screen with Shirley MacLaine.
Why don't you turn me over and ask for a reward?
You know what you're talking about. It's crazy, Sarah.
But Clint is a one-man suicide squad.
1971 was a pivotal year in Eastwood's career. He made his directorial debut and starred in Play Misty for Me. The film was highly acclaimed by critics.
The most exciting Clint Eastwood picture ever made.
Oh!
Dirty Harry is arguably Clint's most memorable character. And the lines that Inspector Harry Callahan utters when addressing a wounded bank robber are often cited as his most memorable.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off, you've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
In Cannes, France, 37 years after delivering those famous lines, Eastwood showed that he hadn't lost his touch prior to an outdoor screening of Dirty Harry.
Most people sort of gravitate towards that early one with the do you fire 6 shots or only 5? And I've forgotten in all this excitement. But this is the .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and it would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question: do I feel lucky? So anyway, I can even remember it. So I haven't gone totally senile yet.
Later that night, Eastwood was applauded by die-hard fans as he arrived at the screening of the film, which was originally released in 1971.
If you have trouble recognizing me, you'll notice I'm the man with the brown hair and lots of it.
All right, let's have it.
Have what?
Your report. What have you been doing?
Oh, well, for the past 3/4 of an hour, I've been sitting on my ass in your outer office, waiting on you.
Damn it all, Harry, that's the mayor you're talking to.
Clint Eastwood. Detective Harry Callahan. You don't assign him.
Stop!
To murder cases. You just turn him loose.
Clint became known as a serial womanizer and has had 4 children with 3 women. Eastwood was surprised to learn that his second wife, Dina Roos, had not seen Dirty Harry.
So one day I put on a video disc of it and played it for her about 10 years ago, or 9 years ago. And that's the last one I've watched. I watched Dirty Harry, and she loved it. So anyway, it was sort of some sort of verification. We're still married. So.
The Dirty Harry series proved immensely popular, and 5 films were produced over a period of 17 years.
Dirty Harry is at it again in Sudden Impact.
You boys, put those guns down.
Say what?
We're not just gonna let you walk out of here.
Who is we, sucker?
Smith, Wesson, and me. Go ahead. Make my day.
In 1986, Clint tried his hand in politics and served for 2 years as mayor of Carmel, California. In 2003, Clint reflected on his political career in the Oxford Union Chambers.
When I won the office of mayor in Carmel, people started thinking that was a springboard to some sort of senatorial or some sort of legislative office, maybe governor, and people suggested that. But I had no ambition to go further with it. I was just interested in my own community.
Clint's true calling was on the big screen, in front and behind the camera. He won critical acclaim for his direction of a biography about Charlie Parker called Bird. And in 1992, Eastwood earned more accolades for directing and producing the Western Unforgiven. Unforgiven won an Academy Award for Best Picture. In 1996, the American Film Institute honored Clint Eastwood with the Lifetime Achievement Award. The AFI acknowledged Eastwood's contribution to enriching American culture through motion pictures and television, and fundamentally advancing the art of filmmaking.
You know what happens to the guys that I've worked with. Dietrich's still in the hospital with a bullet in his gut, and Fanducci's dead.
Now, you're working with Gonzalez, or you're not working.
I think of 43 years that I've been since I started out as an actor, and it's kind of like waking up with an orangutan, you know? You say, how did I get here? And a lot of you haven't awakened with an orangutan, but I have.
Clint joined an illustrious group that night. The previous winners were Elizabeth Taylor, Jack Nicholson, and Steven Spielberg.
He's got that, you know, that thing that people go see Seagal movies about, but also he's got a kind of a real gentleman, pure quality to him that makes you just like him as a person.
It's because he has integrity, and I think because he has a real, you know, sense of who he is, and that he doesn't go with the moods of the times.
Loved him being responsible for Around Midnight being made, too, and Straight No Chaser. He's always supported jazz, which I love.
In 1997, Eastwood hit the red carpet for the launch of Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which he directed. It was an adaptation of a best-selling John Berendt book by the same name.
Yeah, it was good. You're trying to live up to the bestseller image of the book, which John Berendt's chronicling the book. It's great.
Do these premieres still make you nervous?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, let's kind of do the gauntlet here.
The film starred John Cusack and Kevin Spacey.
Oh, he's a master. He fills you with such confidence. He makes you feel like you actually know what you're doing.
It wasn't really shot really fast. It was shot economically. I mean, he just doesn't waste a lot of time, you know, like a lot of directors will do.
Allison Eastwood, Clint's daughter, played the role of Mandy Nichols in the film.
It's very natural. You know, I've grown up with him. I've grown up watching him. I've been directed by him before, so it was really natural and wonderful.
Arnold Schwarzenegger dropped in to lend his support.
Whatever movie he does, I'm there for the opening of the movie because he's a good pal and he's my mentor.
Despite Schwarzenegger's support, reviews of the film were mixed, and its performance at the box office was disappointing. Space Cowboys was released in 2000. Eastwood produced, directed, and acted in the adventure comedy. This older, star-studded cast featured James Garner, Donald Sutherland, and Tommy Lee Jones. Space Cowboys was received well by the public and made over $120 million worldwide. Eastwood released the haunting feature Mystic River in 2003. Based on the novel by Dennis Lehane, it tells the story of three childhood friends who are reunited as adults when one of their daughters dies. Mystic River opened to widespread critical acclaim and was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Director. Clint assembled an all-star cast, including Tim Robbins, Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon, and Laura Linney.
I was very, very lucky that this particular cast was not only available, but were enthusiastic. I think almost every player, without exception, were all first choices.
Sean Penn won an Academy Award for Best Actor, and Tim Robbins won Best Supporting Actor.
Because of the way he works, which is very efficiently, we knew we had 1 or 2 takes on each thing, and so we were all ready for that, and we were prepared for it.
We'd come in and he'd say, "So, what do you guys want to do? I mean, where do you want to move and where do you want to stand?" And then we just kind of figure it out. It's not like you're a puppet, you know. He has a tremendous amount of respect for actors.
He also respects all involved in the production process and was typically hands-on throughout the making of the film. He directed, co-produced, and even created the music score.
Making a movie is an ensemble, and a lot of people may not feel that way. They feel they can do every department, but it just doesn't work that way. And you have to have cinematographers and sound and a whole crew, and everyone is supportive, and you're only as good as they make you look.
The ensemble approach paid off for Clint. Mystic River was nominated for Best Director and Best Picture at the 2003 Academy Awards, and won Best Picture at the annual National Board of Review Awards in New York.
The leading actor category, direction category, and is one of the producers of Best Picture nominee $1 Million Baby, Clint Eastwood.
In 2004, Eastwood won 2 Academy Awards, Best Picture and Best Director for $1 Million Baby. Starring Hilary Swank, Morgan Freeman, and Eastwood, $1 Million Baby is the story of an underappreciated boxing trainer helping an underdog amateur female boxer achieve her dream of becoming a professional.
Becomes a great, well, I hope it's great anyway, it becomes a love story, but not a romantic love story, but more a father-daughter love story. And it's the daughter that he missed in his life, and she's the father that is, I mean, he's the father to her that she lost at a very early age, and doesn't have that connection anymore.
Morgan Freeman and Hilary Swank won Oscars for their performances in $1 Million Baby and clearly relished the direction of Eastwood.
First and foremost, he is a great human being, and I think that he is really connected to people, and he has no superiority complex, and because of that, he treats everyone as equals and believes in the people that he hires, and it makes you believe in yourself, and it's just an amazing gift.
Having come up in that side of the business, I'm very, very sympathetic to the securities and insecurities, the securities that are necessary and the insecurities that are unnecessary to make a good performance. And so what I do is I let the actors bring a lot to the table. When they bring something that's good, it's fine, and when they bring something that's not quite so good, I make adjustments to it.
Clint Eastwood directing. I'm working with Clint and Hilary and an ensemble cast of really terrific actors. We haven't mentioned some of the other actors who are in this, but they're there. And if you've got all that going for you, you're just sort of riding the wave. All you have to do is sort of stay on your feet.
The nominees for the 57th Annual DGA Award for Outstanding Achievement, Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Feature Films are Clint Eastwood for $1 Million Baby.
The 74-year-old director beat Martin Scorsese for the top award at the Directors Guild Awards and was typically modest.
You try to do the best you can. You try to run this camera the best you can and do this interview the best you can. And if you're successful at it, people think, good. If they don't, they kick you in the rear out the door.
Eastwood scored the music for $1 Million Baby. His musical vision was honored at the 19th Annual Film and TV Music Awards in Los Angeles.
I always loved music growing up. I never practiced like I should, so I became an actor instead. But I love it. I think it is a great asset to films, and a good score can be an asset, and a bad score can be a detriment. So it's just the appreciation of the talent is right here.
At the end of the evening, the self-described jazz fanatic gave his fans an impromptu performance. In 2006, Eastwood teamed up with Steven Spielberg, creating 2 World War II movies, Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. These companion films viewed the conflict from 2 distinctly different perspectives. Flags of Our Fathers explored the American side, telling the story of one man's efforts to learn more about his father's involvement in the raising of the U.S. flag at Iwo Jima. This moment was captured in a Pulitzer Prize-winning photograph.
I made it because he asked me to. And he's hard to turn down.
I had originally bought the book because I felt that photograph that Joe Rosenthal still photographed, which was one of the most iconic images in all of American history, next to some of the Lincoln portraits. That photograph really launched an amazing campaign that dislocated 3 survivors of the Iwo Jima flag raising and put them on a public relations tour that in many ways was harder than fighting alongside their buddies on the island of Iwo Jima.
While Eastwood directed, Spielberg produced the feature. The film tells the story of the 7 men who raised the American flag on Iwo Jima and the after effects of that event on their lives. James Bradley, the son of one of the flag raisers, was the author of the original book, Flags of Our Fathers.
I mean, people see the photo as a photo of heroism. My father would look at the photo and think 3 of his friends who were on that photo died. Iwo Jima was a massacre. 7,000 dead Americans, 22,000 dead Japanese. This was something to forget, not to remember.
The film featured a number of young actors, including Ryan Philippe, Jesse Bradford, and Adam Beach.
Clint Eastwood is the coolest guy that I'll ever meet. And with someone like him, his stature, believing in you, you can't help but just find the confidence to excel and to give out everything. He really grows on you. He brings the best out of you.
Clint's real life energy is so different from that of his public persona or from the characters that we best remember him from. He's really just this mellow, laid-back, I like to use the term infectiously calm to describe him. It spreads to those around him, and he's just so respectful to everybody, and that's the attitude on set. Everybody, he's still a leader of men, you know, without having to be aggressive about it in any way. His set just runs like a Swiss watch.
Letters of Iwo Jima looks at the experiences of Japanese soldiers during the war.
Well, it was great because it was doing a movie about a Japanese historical event in Japanese history, as well as the other picture, which is a historical event in American history. But to be a Japanese director, even though I don't speak the language, was fun. Great fun. Flags of Our Fathers was sort of a detective story for James Bradley, finding out how his father, what his life was like during the war, and what made him very silent about it. Letters from Iwo Jima was a detective story for me, to find out exactly what the other side was like. Letters of Iwo Jima, I think it's important for not only the Japanese, but for the rest of the world also to know what people were facing then. We all know it because of the propaganda that was popular at that time, and the Japanese military expansionist government of that time, and how, but we don't know it from the common man, the kind of person that is ripped out of their home, ripped away from their family, and sent off to great probability of never seeing them again. I grew up in war pictures in the 40s where everything was propagandized. All movies, we were the good guys and everybody else were bad guys. And I just wanted to tell two different stories where there were good guys and bad guys everywhere, and just tell something about the human condition.
Despite being a veteran director, Eastwood was asked if it was challenging directing a Japanese cast.
No, I didn't find it an obstacle. I found it fun to do, actually, because I'd had a little experience with it only as an actor years ago. I'd worked in a few pictures when I was doing films in Italy and in Spain, where other people would speak different languages. And I'd speak English, somebody else would speak Spanish, somebody else would speak Italian, German, what have you. But really that didn't have any effect on it, because good acting is good acting, bad acting is bad acting.
Clint was a Japanese director. Yeah, but he couldn't speak Japanese well. It's before shooting, I imagined about him, he's so tough and strong and legend of the Hollywood or something. It's kind of like an emperor or king or something, but it looked like a father, yeah, for us.
After the production concluded, Clint had high praise for the Japanese cast.
But I must say that this was one of the most satisfying projects I've ever been involved with, and this cast is one of the greatest casts that I've ever worked with, certainly as great as any as I've been lucky enough to work with in my career. But to tell this story, story that also talks a little bit about the futility of war, but regardless of what nationality or what country you're in, it's the same thing always. It's the mothers sending and loved ones sending their sons and husbands off to war with a great possibility they will not return. So this picture is sort of dedicated to them. And thank you. Domo arigato.
While both films earned high praise, Letters from Iwo Jima garnered 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, and Eastwood's 4th nomination for Best Director. Letters from Iwo Jima won a Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film, and Eastwood hinted that it might be time to take a break.
Trying to take a vacation since Mystic River, but then $1 Million Baby came along, and I said, well, I've got to do that. And then Stephen asked me to do The Flag of Our Fathers, and I said, well, I got to do that. And then while we were doing that, the idea came about to do Letters. And so now I'm going to sit back and relax and see if I can get that golf ball closer to the hole.
Eastwood owns the exclusive Tiama Golf Club located in Carmel, California. He is a keen golfer and donates his time to charitable causes at major tournaments.
The shot of the day, Clint Eastwood. How about this?
Clint is also an experienced pilot and sometimes flies his own helicopter to the studio to avoid traffic. 2007 was a year of great accolades for Clint. He received a Film Critics Award for Letters from Iwo Jima.
Strikes me as the international nature of it. I mean, we gave Best Picture to Letters from Iwo Jima, which, American director, but in Japanese language.
His talents were also recognized in France, where he received the Knight of the Legion of Honor.
I'm just finished being a Japanese director on a film. And my great ambition would be to someday do a French film and become a French director. Thank you.
Eastwood was presented with the Spirit of Independence Award at the Los Angeles Film Festival. Tony Bennett and Dustin Hoffman were among those in attendance. The red carpet was full of praise for one of the most liked and respected actor-directors in the business.
The first time I met him, I was sitting down someplace, I don't know where it was, a restaurant or something, and he literally came over to me, which is already a sign. In other words, I should be standing and he should be sitting, but I was sitting, he was standing, and and this before it was, yeah, it's a good move. Before it was in style, right? His pants were like that. Oh, I got the socks.
I like them.
But anyways, his pants were there. His shirt was, and I don't know if you know film that well, but Capra made a film called Meet John Doe, and I said to myself, that's John Doe. In other words, he was the most interesting thing about him to me is that he was the opposite of his screen persona. He was shy, he was self-conscious, he was humble, and he was very sweet.
I think he's blessed with what Marilyn Monroe had. He's just, the camera likes him. And so that every film he makes is accepted. He just has a beautiful body language, he has a beautiful face, and more than that, he's got a beautiful mind and heart.
When I was 16, I used to watch his films in Cleveland, and I'm a little kid in the middle of a black neighborhood, and I bought cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, and I had a poncho, and I wore that to school for almost 2 years, for real, because I was Clint Eastwood, that was, he was a hero to me.
The Los Angeles Film Festival is run by Film Independent. The nonprofit organization champions indie films and supports a community of artists devoted to independent filmmaking.
They work, and the characters work, and the stories work, and they have their power and simplicity like he does, and they have a sense of ease about them. They don't feel forced and pushed and, manipulated, and that says a lot about who he is, and we all feel that, and it's a very attractive quality in his stories and him.
Eastwood ended his self-imposed 4-year acting hiatus when he played the lead in Gran Torino. Clint directed, held a producer role, and co-wrote the theme song for the film. It grossed close to $30 million during its opening weekend in 2009, making Eastwood, at age 78, the oldest leading man to reach #1 at the box office.
I really don't know how long there'll be roles for guys my age. I look at the generation before me. I look at the James Stewart and Henry Fonda and John Wayne, Cagney, Bogart. Everybody seemed to retire at a certain age. They either retired or they just got tired of doing it, or they felt that the roles ran out. For me, they haven't run out.
Clint plays the role of a disgruntled Korean War vet, Walt Kowalski. Walt sets out to reform his neighbor, a young Hmong teenager who tried to steal his prized possession, a 1972 Gran Torino. The question was asked if Eastwood drew from his character in Dirty Harry for the role of Walt.
I really approached it from the scratch. I didn't think of Dirty Harry at that time. I looked at Dirty Harry recently when we were making DVD corrections and new things, and I looked at it, and I must say I thought it was fun to watch and fun period of my life, but I feel that Walt is a much different person in a lot of ways, you know. Walt Kowalski is a guy that I knew a lot when I grew up. I knew a lot of guys because I was raised in the 40s and at 30s and 40s, but I'd say my teenage years were in the 40s. And I knew a lot of guys that talked like that and acted like that. In the neighborhoods, everybody talked like that. The world was a little friendlier place in a way. Now he's pretty lonely in life, and he ends up, as prejudiced as he ends up being befriended and befriending a group of people who were very little is known about him in this country, and that's the Hmong culture and Asian people, and I think they became more family to him.
Clint brought his family to the production as well. His son Scott played the part of Trey, and his oldest son Kyle provided the score for the film. Not surprisingly, the cast could not speak highly enough of Eastwood's direction.
We did this giant scene with all these extras, and it was quiet. It was so quiet, and usually sets can kind of get a little noisy. So I asked him, I said, how do you do that? How do you keep like the work happen so quickly and it's quiet? He goes, well, when I was on Rawhide, and I'm thinking, I'm getting a Rawhide story? Awesome. When I was on Rawhide, certain habits I picked up over the years, and certain others I've discarded. And the people making the most noise are the ones asking for quiet. I said, you're right, because everyone's got the megaphones and the walkie-talkie and the squawking, and you know.
I see Clint at the gym. He works out every day, and we had passes this real nice gym, and I go, Clint, you want your fitness age? And he goes, what's that? You know, it's one of those things. You pay $300 and they'll tell you what fitness age you are. I go, I'll do yours for $50. You're 37. He goes, I just go by how I feel. How old do you feel? I feel like I'm 100. So that's Clint.
John Carroll reflected on Eastwood's ability to play the tough guy with a heart.
Well, I mean, he's always been a tough guy, you know, and he's always played a tough guy. Even in the comedies, he's a tough guy, and it's kind of the end of the road of a very tough man, and what happens to that, you know, and how his family is, and who he is now, and how at some moment he might be able to find some kind of, I guess, tenderness, which is a kind of beautiful journey.
I like older people who are never afraid to learn.
Are you one of those people?
Yeah, I am. I think that's why I stay working in the movie profession, is that every film I do, and I've done 2 this year, I've done quite a few in the last 5-6 years, is that I never get tired of learning something new. And I learn something new on every project.
Gran Torino grossed over $326 million, making it the highest grossing film of Eastwood's career. Eastwood stated that this would be his last acting role. Whispers of retirement ran through the media.
There's been a lot of talk of retirement. Do you think this is it for you?
I keep talking about it all the time. My wife's trying to keep me out of retirement.
I like it when you work. You don't want to home more? No, I didn't mean it that way.
He didn't want me to hang around the house too long, so.
But he's very
happy when he works. He's in a great mood when he works.
Another acting role ready? Are you looking at another?
No, I don't.
Eastwood was voted Best Actor for his role in Gran Torino at the National Board of Review Awards in New York.
It's a very nice award from a very nice organization. And it's the oldest cinema organization, or cinema critique organization, and or aficionados, I guess you would call them. And so that's great.
Gran Torino was recognized by the American Film Institute as one of the 10 best films of 2008.
How does it feel to be honored by AFI?
Very nice, very nice. It's always great, and this luncheon they always have is very nice because it's sort of low-key, and you don't have to do anything except just hang out and talk to people.
The next production for Eastwood was the family dramatic thriller The Changeling, starring Angelina Jolie. Her character, Christine Collins, is the mother of a kidnapped child. She suspects the child, who is eventually returned to her, is not her son. The film is based on a true story.
Your worst fear, anything happening to your kids. So it was the reason I didn't want to do the film for a long time. I read it and wanted to keep it as far away from me as possible. But it's also a great story of justice, and I loved the film. But no, every day on set I came home and I was so clingy to my kids. I think I bugged them. I was grabbing them and I was checking them in the middle of the night, and I was, it scared me. It still scares me.
Ron Howard intended to direct The Changeling, but scheduling conflicts led to Eastwood taking over the role of director. Howard and Eastwood produced the movie along with Brian Grazer and Robert Lorenz.
I was working on Changeling. I'd acquired the rights to it, and I was very enthusiastic about it. And yet Frost Nixon came along, and both projects had to be made immediately, now. And then when we heard that Clint Eastwood was interested in The Changeling, well, that made the decision as easy as you could imagine.
Eastwood agreed to direct the movie immediately after reading the script. He said his memories of growing up during the Great Depression meant that whenever a project dealing with the era landed in his hands, he'd redouble his attention upon it.
Since that time, in 1928, many changes have gone on, and in the Los Angeles police structure, and sometimes good, sometimes bad. But anyway, there's been, like I mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of different regimes that have come along, and this particular one was really corrupt. And this woman, through her tenacious attitude, and brought down the whole police department and the whole political structure.
Certainly so much of it is being a mother and imagining if this was happening to me, my pain and my frustration. But I did have to find something else because, as I said, I couldn't respond the way, of course, I would respond today. This is personal, but it's true. I lost my mother a few months before the film, and to me, she's very much like my mother. My mother was very passive in many ways and very, very sweet, but when it came to her children, she was a lion. But as a woman, very, very shy, almost with her own voice.
Clint and Angelina clearly formed a great working relationship. This was evident when Clint presented Angelina with an Achievement Award at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival.
Well, when I think of Angelina Jolie, I always think of Gloria Swanson playing Norma Desmond when she's talking to a young William Holden, and she's saying, we didn't need sound, we had faces. And that's kind of with her. It's a face that's just the camera loves.
was like anybody would be in this room, and I was nervous the first day. But he is really, and you shut your ears because I'm going to embarrass you, but he's really just a great leader, just a great all-around leader. Every single member of the crew he respects and gives them his time. Every single person feels valued. Everybody brings their best. And you can't ask more for, I have never seen a director command so much respect, not because he's Clint Eastwood, but because he is so gracious and thoughtful and connected to every single person. So it was a pleasure, and I'm sure every single person on the crew would say the same.
Clint, it's been said that you're going to return to Dirty Harry. It's been rumored. Is that true?
No. That rumor is incorrect.
I am.
It'll be Dirty Harriet, and the Tomb Raider will play it. But no, I have no intention. There's certain things you have to be realistic about. Dirty Harry would not be on a police department at my age, and so we'll move on from that.
The Changeling won critical acclaim at the 2008 Cannes Film Festival and received 3 Academy Award nominations, including Best Actress for Angelina. Eastwood was named Director of the Year at the 12th Annual Hollywood Film Festival in Los Angeles, California. The gala ceremony took place at the Beverly Hilton Hotel and was co-chaired by Paul Haggis, writer of $1 Million Baby.
Favorite Clint Eastwood film? Well, completely impartially, $1 Million Baby. Exactly.
Clint Eastwood? Oh my God, yeah. Well, he's iconic, you know. I don't know. I just think he's a great director. You know, he's besides having this incredible acting career, and you know, Unforgiven is just like one of those movies that you can't really touch.
Oh, everything that Clint's done. I mean, it just seems like every year he just gets better and better, and the films that he's doing now just kind of, it's befuddling, it's mind-blowing. The guy's 78 years old, and it seems like he's going to go, you know, for another 40 years.
He's someone who is just like, just expands and expands and expands, and it grows deeper and shows more colors and brings all of his life experience to bear on each of these films that he makes that are just so incredibly impactful for all of us.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the spaghetti westerns, you know, those are incredible, and really those movies and Dirty Harry, I mean, you know, they have a kind of certain people, there's a certain perception of them now, but he actually really broke new ground with those roles.
Clint and Morgan Freeman teamed up again in 2009 after both won Oscars for $1 Million Baby. This collaboration was Invictus, the story of Nelson Mandela's efforts to reunite the people of South Africa by winning the 1995 Rugby World Cup. Freeman, who was a producer of the film and played the role of Nelson Mandela, approached Eastwood after reading the script.
I called Clint and told him, hey, I got a good script for you. And he read it and said, I like it, let's go.
Morgan called me and asked me to do it. I didn't even know it was about Mandela. Then I got, when I read it, I was enthusiastic, not only because I admired Mr. Mandela, but also because I didn't know about this particular moment in history and what great effect it had on reconciliation of the country.
This particular moment in South African history, any South African will tell you, is maybe the most important to date that they've experienced as a nation. A great story to tell, a great subject to tell it around.
Eastwood's direction cleverly fused a political tale and a sports story into an inspirational movie.
It's so unlikely. It's so unlikely that this could pay off. The odds against this team going out and winning just on his inspiration. But it's a tribute to him that this happened and his relationship with the captain of the team, Francois Picard.
Matt Damon was casted for role of Francois Pignard and learned a lot from working with two legends of the industry.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was everything I expected, and I expected a lot. And it was everything and more, kind of working with those guys. And, you know, they're two of the people who I most admire in the business, and who have careers that I most admire in the business. And they're like an object lesson. It's like something that I look towards and hope for my own life down the road.
Damon was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, whilst Freeman was nominated as Best Actor at the 2010 Academy Awards.
I think judging material, finding material that's new and interesting for yourself, that becomes new and interesting for the audience. I suppose if I'd have stuck with the one genre, which for me would have been the Western genre, starting there, and then through cop dramas and all different things over the years, I would have been stuck in a rut somewhat, and I'd just be an old detective or an old cowboy.
With a budget of $50 million US, the film collected over $120 million at the box office.
So nice.
All right.
Eastwood again directed Matt Damon in the production of Hereafter. Matt plays a reluctant psychic. The shoot took Clint to locations in France and throughout England. Now aged in his 80s, Clint's career seems to get better with age, like a good bottle of wine.
I just keep working. This is my, I'm in my sixth decade of the screen business, and so I just keep working, and that keeps you vital, hopefully.
To stay in shape, yeah, you have to stay in shape physically and mentally. Otherwise, you lose track. The reason I started directing films in 1970 was I thought, well, someday I'll want to retire from acting. Maybe then I can direct for a while, and then I don't think I've ever thought about retiring. I like working. Henry Bumstead, my production designer, he was at 92 when we were working together, and he used to say, you know, oh, to be 80 again. So I'll just enjoy being 80.